According to my calendar, it's about time for another installment of one of my favorite videos to make, the best businesses in Star Wars. And I've got 5 of them here that I think you will really like. I'm Joey from Radio Free Coruscant, and these are the best small businesses to own in Star Wars, Volume 3. Data Courier. Computer science in the Star Wars galaxy is very different to our own. While they do have the HoloNet, which can be compared to both our internet and TV in real life, you almost never hear about data being transferred that way. Take the Death Star plans, for example. They had to be beamed onto a Rebel ship in orbit, copied onto a disk, loaded into R2-D2, and physically sent to the Rebel headquarters on Yavin 4. That doesn't mean it couldn't have been sent via HoloNet, but I think the HoloNet simply isn't used that way. Most sensitive files are transferred physically to ensure their safe arrival and to keep prying eyes off of them. Throughout most of galactic history, reliably tracking a ship through hyperspace was virtually impossible, while the Empire, Republic, and Separatists alike almost certainly monitored the HoloNet like a hawk. So how do you transfer copies of confidential contracts or restricted records? You hire a data courier. A data courier is a type of semi-legal smuggler who, of course, carries confidential data in physical hard drives between 2 locations. This would be a quite lucrative business to own, as there are a great many parties who seek to keep their data safe from competitors, the government, and more. That's where I would segue into a VPN ad if any were sponsoring me, but we don't have to worry about that today. Just pretend I said your favorite brand. The great thing about being a data courier is that it's super easy to get into. You don't need any kind of specialized equipment or a specific model of ship, just some way to convince prospective clients that you're not an unscrupulous individual who is going to make a copy of their data to sell to their competitors. And if you are an unscrupulous individual who's going to sell a copy of their data to their competitors, you can make quite a bit of extra money on the side. Just be very careful not to get caught, and don't do it every time. This would be a great career for characters in a Star Wars tabletop RPG. You'd be traveling all across the galaxy, taking jobs for all kinds of people and moving all kinds of data for them, which would provide a lot of opportunities for the game's encounters to happen. Consider it next time you start a campaign. Like I said, just about any ship would work, conceivably even one as small as a Starfighter. You could also get a freighter and do regular shipping or smuggling on the side, or do it at the same time as pretty much any other job on this list. But the ship I would recommend to you for it would be the CEC Hawk 290 Light Freighter. At around 22 meters long by 17 wide and 7 meters tall, it can land at any platform or docking bay and navigate tight urban spaces like Coruscant. It was quite fast with a Class 2 hyperdrive and a top speed of about 1,000 kilometers per hour. It had a crew of 1 to 2 and could carry 2 to 6 passengers, plus 75 tons of cargo, giving you a little bit of extra space for cargo in addition to the data drives. Most importantly though, it was relatively inexpensive for such a high-quality starship. In Legends it was listed at 135,000 credits new and 55,000 used, but in canon it is said to be 70,000 credits. That might be a lot for its size, but for what you can do with it, that's a great deal. Angler. Fans of Jedi Survivor will undoubtedly know and love Scuba Steve, the diminutive fisherman you encounter throughout the game. But while Scuba Steve was doing it just because he just loves fish, you can turn it into quite a profitable business. I'm going to keep this entry short because I think if I need to explain fishing to you, you might need to watch fewer Star Wars YouTube videos. All you really need is a guide to exotic fishes of the galaxy, a sturdy fishing rod or harpoon gun, a ship to take you there, and a lot of patience. I can't help you with most of that, but I can help you decide what ship to use. We don't know what Steve has, but unless you're only a foot or two tall, you probably don't want that one anyway. Our business model will be traveling around the galaxy catching exotic fish to sell to rich people and fancy restaurants, in distant places that might not be able to get them otherwise. So we're going to want something that can refrigerate the fish until we get there. You could just install freezers in any freighter, but I've got a better idea. We see in The Mandalorian that Din Djarin's Razor Crest is outfitted with a miniaturized carbon freezing chamber to allow him to store live bounties in a convenient, space-efficient rack. This is undoubtedly a custom addition to the ship, but if he can add it to his, then you should be able to add it to yours. You could probably put one in any ship that's big enough and has a strong enough reactor to power it, but let's just stick with the one we know for sure can support the system. And we're going with specifically a carbon freezing chamber instead of just a regular commercial freezer, because we're catering to upscale clients who expect a greater degree of quality. Using a carbon freezing chamber allows us to deliver our fish in exactly the same state as when we plucked them out of the water. Ours will be virtually indistinguishable from fresh fish, even thousands of light years and many days or weeks after the catch. Is it overkill? Absolutely, but you can trick rich people into wanting anything if you sell it to them hard enough, and I guarantee they'll be begging to be put on your client list if you tell them just how fresh and delicious your fish can be compared to the stale freezer burn of other transportation techniques. It is fortunate, then, that the Razor Crest is such a good ship if it is the one we are going to use. The Razor Crest, or ST-70 assault ship, was a 23.4 meter long by 15.7 meter wide and 7.1 meter tall attack and transport ship. It had a crew of 1 and could carry at least 4 passengers. We don't know its cargo capacity, but it had room for several carbon-frozen slabs that could probably hold quite a few fish each. It also had room in the cargo hold for some kind of boat or speeder to go out on the water with, and a storage locker for your gear. It was armed with 2 heavy laser cannons to protect yourself from anyone trying to steal your catch, or perhaps to take down a particularly stubborn fish. We don't know what it cost, and especially what it would cost to outfit it with the carbon freezing chamber, but when you're selling to wealthy elites, it will pay itself off quickly, no matter the original price. Droid rental service. There are hundreds of kinds of droids out there for a wide variety of tasks, and a lot of people would probably rather save their money than buy a droid they're only going to use once in a while. Repair droids and cleaning droids are great, but if you don't need them very often, it probably isn't worth the investment. Loader droids, construction droids, general labor droids, and even protocol droids are all droids that people could conceivably only need once in a blue moon. So why not rent one to them? Buy up 1 or 2 droids of each category and let people pay you to utilize their services. It probably doesn't matter so much what ship you use for this, as I think it would be better to just buy a land-based facility to house and maintain your droids, and use a shuttle or freighter to send them out to customers. I would load up your base with maintenance facilities, a droid spa with an oil bath, and appropriate storage or living spaces for the droids. Simple automatons like most droids can just be stored on shelves in a warehouse, but more intelligent models like protocol droids and other social service droids would likely object to being stored that way, and would probably fare better with simple living quarters instead. That does bring up the question of whether or not droids are sentient and should be considered living things, which would certainly make this business model very problematic. Though I suppose it wouldn't be as bad as just selling them, as this way you can ensure they are getting treated properly, I guess. Existential concerns aside, what ship would be the best for this? If you would like your whole operation to be on a ship, then a large freighter such as the Action 6 or even something as small as a Gozanti would be a viable option. But if you would rather just have a central hub and send your droids out from there, as I would do, then a small shuttle should be more than sufficient. This also lowers the cost of entry considerably. Start with a small facility and a single shuttle, and you can easily scale up your delivery operations by adding more as your business grows. The shuttle I would opt for is the Sakul Industries Star Commuter 2000. Measuring 15 meters long by about 9 meters wide and 3.5 meters tall, it can fit into any parking space, and you will never struggle to find a way to get your droids into your client's hands. It also had a passenger capacity of 24, so you will be able to make several deliveries in one trip, or deliver to clients renting many droids easily. Appropriately enough, it could even be ordered with an optional RX series pilot droid, meaning you wouldn't even have to pilot the ship and deliver the droids yourself. In fact, if you employed droids to run the main facility too, it could even be an entirely passive income stream, other than possibly doing some advertising. We don't know how much the Star Commuter costs, but it's surely no more than 20 to 25,000 credits. Heavy lift service. Maybe this is too niche, but another idea that I think could be useful is a heavy lift service. There are tons of uses for a crane service that people will need to hire you for. Lifting heavy components into place during construction, recovering crashed starships, hauling satellites into orbit, and more. There are enough things that need a heavy lift crane for it to be a profitable business model, but not so many that everyone would make the investment to furnish their own cranes. You can charge an almost unlimited fee for your services, as there aren't going to be a whole lot of competitors in this market, and your customers aren't going to complain too much when you pull their beloved ship out of a lake or other feats they don't have the equipment for. There are actually a couple of very different approaches I would take for this. One possibility would be to acquire a surplus Y-45 armored transport hauler. This Imperial utility ship measured 20.1 meters long by about 16 meters wide and 6.5 tall. It was equipped with 4 winches that could carry 1, 2, or 4 heavy objects depending on their size and shape, and how many points of connection they needed for stable transport. It also had 2 magnetic clamps underneath for picking things up as well. The Empire used the AT hauler to carry around vehicles as large as an AT-AT, so you should be able to pick up most loads without too much trouble. It wasn't very fast at 125 kilometers per hour and an unknown class of hyperdrive, but it should still be suitable for your needs. It required 2 crew, a pilot and a cargo manager. It had some interesting amenities for them too. Despite its small size, it had a refresher complete with a full-sized shower inside, and it had a large service gantry on the bottom to supervise your cargo from. And, also despite its small size, it could get even smaller on landing by rotating its booms vertically, ensuring it only took up about as much space on the ground as a couple of starfighters, despite its enormous carrying capacity. The other idea I had would be to just serve a local area with something like a heavy industrial crane transport. The stability of a walker such as this may also present an advantage over the AT hauler, as I don't think the Y-45 would be capable of the kind of precise placement that a crane would have. You might even consider getting one of each. Use an HICT for construction projects and local recoveries where you don't need to move your loads very far, and use the Y-45 for long-distance and high-altitude, orbital, or interstellar transportation. You could potentially even carry your HICT to job sites with the Y-45, though at almost twice the size of an AT-AT, it would probably require 2 Y-45s or a Gozanti cruiser to move it safely. It was, after all, about 47 meters long by 20 meters wide and 42 meters tall, considerably larger than the largest thing we know a Y-45 can carry. Sadly, we don't know the price for either vehicle, but I would guess that the HICT is somewhere in the 150 to 200,000 credit range, and the Y-45 is possibly around 70 to 100,000 credits. Not cheap by any means, but if you like the idea, they are by far the best tools for the job. Scrapper. I believe I mentioned this in the first small businesses video, but I wanted to go a little more in-depth on it this time for the final entry in this edition. While the galaxy stayed in a state of unprecedented peace for 1,000 years after the Ruusan Reformation, that peace eventually broke down and resulted in several decades of escalating conflicts. Arguably starting in 232 BBY with the emergence of the anarchistic Nihil and the ensuing conflict, and then blowing up into the Clone Wars, Civil War, First Order War, and beyond, this period of time produced no shortage of shipwrecks and abandoned battlefields filled with valuable fuel, scrap metal, and machinery for you to liberate. Even a single Star Destroyer could provide thousands of credits worth of items for you to just take, to say nothing of the scrap value of the ship itself. So, with the right ship, you could go out there and scoop up salvageable starfighters, weapons, and equipment without too much difficulty. And I think the right ship would be the Gallifrey Yard's GS-100 salvage ship. It is purpose-built for this exact job, and has all the features you would need to do it. It has 6 massive cargo bays with exterior doors for easy loading and unloading. In between these are 4 cargo handling arms that can be used to just drift through the wreckage and grab whatever looks valuable without too much effort. There was also an airlock on the bottom to dock with ships looking to purchase the stuff you found, or to send out crew, or maybe even droids, to search inside wrecks where you can't reach with the arms. At the front of the ship are an advanced salvage sensor and a searchlight to help you both automatically and manually scan the site for stuff to take home with you. It also had a long-range communications antenna to seek out buyers for your haul, and a laser cannon turret to fend off competitors who might want to steal your hard work. It even had a pair of tow hooks at the rear to pull large objects or even entire ships. The GS-100 wouldn't be a particularly luxurious or comfortable ship to work out of, but its durable construction and specialized design makes it the perfect ship for the task. The GS-100 measures 174 meters long by 71 meters wide and 53.5 meters tall. Despite being larger than a CR-90 Corvette, it only required 1 crew and 2 droids to operate it, though a salvage operation would be much more efficient with a few more. It could carry up to 20 droids or probably 10 or so passengers. Its cargo capacity is listed at 140 tons, but that seems super low to me. Based on its size, I would have guessed 500 to 1,000. It was very slow in atmosphere with a 400 km/h top speed, and not much better in hyperspace with a Class 3 hyperdrive. It had a price tag of 190,000 credits new, or 95,000 used. And those are 5 more great ideas for businesses to run in Star Wars. Let me know which of these you would want to do, or what else you'd like. After that, subscribe to the channel and go check out the first 2 installments if you haven't seen them already. Thank you so much for watching and for getting me to 8,000 subscribers. I will see you next week. RFC, out.